Hello, this is the Investigator, and today I'm going to be talking about the most recent updates on Trump tariffs and the final stand against total ridiculousness and crash in our economy. So first we got to talk about kind of the key players. We got Jerome Powell of the Federal Reserve Chair. He's a pretty chill guy. He warned President Trump about how the tariffs could be detrimental to our economy, and he maintains kind of a cautious approach on interest rates. He wants slower, more hawkish, making sure that we don't spike inflation with too low interest rates. And he was actually appointed by Trump, and he's done a pretty good job so far. Then we got Scott Bessent. He's the Treasury Secretary. He's been kind of the key guy when it came to Trump pausing the 90-day tariffs on all the other countries and argued for more cautious approach in terms of starting a massive trade war with every other country. And we got Howard Lutnick, who's more in the middle when it comes to tariffs. He thinks that we should impose tariffs, but not crazy 90% tariffs on Cambodia, 125% tariffs on China. More fair tariffs that aim at increasing our manufacturing base, but at a slow and reasonable pace. Then we got the hardliners. We got President Donald Trump, complete loose cannon. We know who Donald Trump is. His economic policy is basically just whoever he talked to last. So if you talk to these guys last, he's all for the tariffs. He's all for crazy trade war with every other country. And if you talk to these guys last, he kind of is in a better position to make a better decision. Then we got Kevin Hassett. He's kind of a complete suck up to Donald Trump. If Donald Trump is in his big tariff, I want to tariff everyone mood, he's going to back Trump. He's going to say it's a great idea, and he's not going to really speak out against Trump. And then we got Peter Navarro. He's the real crazy head behind all the tariff ideas. He wrote multiple books where he cited a fake person that actually turned out to be an anagram of his name. And so that was his only source in his book, Death by China, and his only source is himself. And so that should tell you enough about his economic policies. He basically wants crazy tariffs on every other country. He thinks China will be the complete end of the U.S., and he wants to basically completely isolate the economy of the U.S. from every other country and do everything here, kind of like North Korea. So we got the meeting that led to the pause. So basically, what happened is the two guys from earlier, Scott Bessent and Howard Lutnick, managed to get Trump in a room without Peter Navarro, and they basically straight up said to Trump, if you keep doing this tariff stuff with every other country, the economy as we know it is dead. Like, you gotta reverse this. And they wouldn't let him leave the room until he tweeted publicly allowing the world to know that there was going to be a tariff pause. As you can see, led to a huge rise in the stock market. Everybody was very happy about the tariff pause, showing that the stock market does not want these huge trade war. It's bad for the economy. It's bad for the stock market. And he accepted China, so we still have the big giant 125% tariff on China, but at least we have more or less free trade with the rest. Actually, no, we still have a 10% tariff on the rest of the world. So not total free trade with the rest of the world, but at least not insane wild tariffs like he was about to impose. And then the second thing, which kind of led to a huge dip in the market today and why it's been dipping recently, is Trump wants to fire Jerome Powell, the first guy. And basically, he's saying that Jerome Powell is cutting interest rates too slowly. We need to fire him as soon as possible, and we need to get him out and replace him with someone who will slash interest rates. And the problem is cutting interest rates faster than they should be is it will lead to a massive spike in inflation. So part of the campaign promises that he made, lower grocery prices, lower gas prices, all that stuff will start to spike if you cut interest rates too fast and get huge economic activity will lead to a big boom and a huge bust really fast. So you got to be careful when it comes to interest rates. And Powell probably knows more about the economy than Donald Trump on this matter. Um, he's not really allowed to fire Powell without a cause. His only cause right now is his disagreement on interest rates, which is not a real reason to fire someone. But if we're talking about Trump, he really is not happy when he doesn't get his way. So he might try to figure out how to do some shady stuff to get Jerome Powell fired. If he does actually manage to fire Powell, it would be absolutely detrimental to the market. It would replace it with probably more of a puppet to him. It would kind of lead to instability because the government of the U.S. and the Federal Reserve are kind of supposed to be two separate entities that work together. But if you were able to fire Powell and put one of his own people in, it would basically be a direct uh, responder to whatever Trump wanted. So it not only would lead to uh, big crashes caused by, and possibly a recession caused by the too fast cutting interest rates, but also the rest of the world would start to trust the U.S. less when it came to economic policy because it would be less separate when it came to government and the Federal Reserve. So yeah, those are the most recent things. Hopefully, Powell doesn't get fired. Hopefully, the trade war ends, and I'll make a longer video discussing how detrimental a trade war with the rest of the world would be later. Thank you for watching.